Welcome back to the Daily Financial News Roundup. It's December 26th, 2024. Hope you all had a wonderful holiday. Ready to jump back into the market news.
Yeah, definitely. While a lot of folks were unwrapping presents, the markets, well, they were serving up some pretty interesting moves.
Right, U.S. stocks saw kind of a mixed performance on Thursday.
Yeah, a bit mixed. The S&P 500 and the Nasdaq Q both edged lower, just slightly. But the Dow Jones Industrial Average that actually saw a slight increase. Overall, pretty quiet day for the markets.
Makes sense with the holiday season, but some companies definitely made some headlines, like take Rigetti Computing, for example.
Rigetti, yeah, their ticker symbol's RGTI. They saw their stock just go through the roof. Over 36%, an all-time high, all thanks to the launch of their new Anka 3 quantum computer. It's an 84-qubit machine. Investor interest in quantum computing is really taking off.
Yeah, it's amazing how fast that technology is moving. Speaking of exciting developments, how about GameStop?
Ugh, GameStop, GME, always a hot topic. Shares went up almost 6%, maybe because of that cryptic Christmas post from Roaring Kitty, Keith Gill. GameStop's 52-week range really goes to show just how volatile that stock is.
It definitely keeps investors on their toes. Now, Palantir AI, they made a pretty big jump, too.
Palantir AI, yeah, ticker symbol PDYN, jumped almost 48% after they announced a successful autonomous tracking flight. They use their Palantir Pilot AI software. It's pretty cool stuff. Investors seem pretty excited about this development.
Autonomous flight is a real game changer, that's for sure. And then there's Funware, another stock that saw a notable increase.
Funware, PHUN. Their shares climbed almost 28%. Could be because of their connections with President-elect Donald Trump, and their global expansion plans. Funware always seems to be in the news.
Tesla, though, they actually saw their stock dip a bit, even with some good news.
Yeah, even with reports that their Shanghai megafactory is about ready to go, and the company's senior VP saying Tesla's all set to efficiently produce autonomous vehicles, the stock still dipped a little.
Maybe the market's just kind of waiting to see how Tesla's autonomous vehicle ambitions actually play out.
Could be.
Yeah.
Now, how about we talk about a company that really knocked it out of the park this year, Palantir?
Palantir, ticker symbol PLTR. They've had a phenomenal year.
Phenomenal, yeah. Their stock went up an incredible 395% this year, making them the top performer in the S&P 500. Dan Ives, analyst over at Wedbush Securities, he calls Palantir a table pounder stock, the Messi of AI, and he even thinks it could be the next Oracle.
Wow, those are some pretty big claims. What's fueling this incredible growth?
Well, Alex Fishman, he used to work at Palantir and is now with Empros Capital, he said, and I quote, "When I look at Palantir, it's one of the few companies where I can easily envision it becoming 10 or 20 times its current size."
So people are pretty confident in their potential?
Yeah, they are, but there are some things to keep in mind, like Palantir has a pretty high price-to-earnings ratio, and some analysts are a bit worried about its valuation.
So it's a stock with huge potential, but also some risk involved.
Exactly. Investors really need to weigh those potential rewards against the possible risks. Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about some legal issues that are impacting investors.
Yeah, unfortunately, quite a few companies are facing class action lawsuits and investor alerts.
That's right. Law firms are looking into potential claims and encouraging investors who might have been affected to get in touch with them. This is a good reminder that staying informed and protecting your investments is really important.
Definitely. So who's first on the list?
Well, we have Flux Power Holdings.
What's happening with Flux Power Holdings?
Flux Power Holdings, ticker symbol FLUX. The deadline for the lead plaintiff is December 31st, 2024. The lawsuit is alleging financial misstatements, basically saying that the company didn't accurately represent its financial situation.
So investors who think they might have been affected have very little time to join the lawsuit.
That's right. Next up is TMC, the metals company.
What's the story with TMC?
TMC, the metals company, their ticker symbol is TMC, and the lead plaintiff deadline for this one is January 7th, 2025. They're dealing with a restatement of their financial statements because of accounting misclassification. Looks like there might have been some mistakes in how they categorized their finances.
That's definitely concerning. How about Five9?
Five9, ticker symbol FIVN. They've got a lead plaintiff deadline of February 3rd, 2025. This lawsuit is about alleged misleading statements about their business performance and their revenue guidance. Basically, some investors are saying that the company wasn't totally upfront about how their business was doing.
Transparency is so important in the financial world. What about Kyverna Therapeutics?
For Kyverna Therapeutics, ticker symbol KYTX, the deadline is February 7th, 2025. The lawsuit in this case is focused on some allegedly misleading information in their IPO documents about clinical trial results, raises questions about the accuracy of the information they provided during their initial public offering.
Warner Bros. Discovery is facing some legal challenges as well.
Warner Bros. Discovery, ticker symbol WBD, their lead plaintiff deadline is January 24th, 2025. They're facing allegations that they made misleading statements about their business prospects, specifically about how some sports rights negotiations were going.
Sounds like there might have been a disconnect between what they said publicly and what was actually happening in those negotiations.
That's what the lawsuit alleges. Now, let's move on to ASP Isotopes.
What's going on with ASP Isotopes?
With ASP Isotopes, ticker symbol ASPI, the lead plaintiff deadline is February 3rd, 2025. The lawsuit is saying they overstated how effective their technology is and what their business potential really is. Investors are saying they were given misleading information about what the company is actually capable of.
DMC Global is another company facing a lawsuit.
DMC Global, yeah, their ticker symbol is BOOM. Their deadline is February 4th, 2025. They're facing allegations of misleading statements about their financial results and about something called goodwill impairment.
Goodwill impairment. That sounds pretty complicated.
It can be, yeah. Basically, goodwill is an intangible asset. It reflects things like a company's brand reputation and customer relationships. Impairment happens when the value of that goodwill drops. Investors are questioning whether DMC Global accurately valued their goodwill.
Makes sense. What about Sun Communities?
For Sun Communities, ticker symbol SUI, the lead plaintiff deadline is February 10th, 2025. The lawsuit claims that they didn't disclose information about some loans made to the CEO and potential insider trading. This raises some serious questions about ethical conduct within the company.
Let's move on to Applied Therapeutics.
Sure. Applied Therapeutics, ticker symbol APLT, has a deadline of February 18th, 2025. This lawsuit came about after their stock took a nosedive. That happened because the FDA rejected their application for a new drug and then also issued a warning letter. The FDA's actions definitely shook investor confidence.
Last but not least, we have Zeta Global Holdings.
Zeta Global Holdings, their ticker symbol is Zeta. The lead plaintiff deadline in this case is January 21st, 2025. They're facing allegations that they used some questionable data collection practices and that they artificially inflated their financial results.
So their data practices and their financial reporting are both under scrutiny.
That's right. It really underscores how important ethical data handling is in today's data-driven world. It can make or break a company's reputation and their long-term success.
Absolutely. Okay, let's switch gears to some, well, happier news from the crypto world.
Yeah, how about this Ethereum co-founder, Vitalik Buterin? He went and adopted a baby hippo in Thailand.
A baby hippo, that's amazing.
It is. Her name is Mudeng. He donated a huge amount of Ether, 88 ETH. That's worth about $296,785. And he says he's planning to donate even more later on.
That's incredibly generous of him.
He sees it as a thank you to Thailand for their hospitality and their support of all the Ethereum events they've hosted. Little Mudeng has become a bit of an internet sensation. Everyone loves her.
It's a really sweet story. It brings some good vibes to the crypto world.
Definitely. Now, let's take a look at some of the stocks that really grabbed the attention of retail traders today.
Okay, besides Rigetti and GameStop, what other stocks stood out?
Well, Palantir AI, Phunware, and Tesla are all worth talking about. You ready to hear more about them?
Absolutely. What made these stocks noteworthy today?
Palantir AI, their stock shot up almost 48%, landing at $7.29 per share. That jump is all thanks to their announcement about that successful autonomous tracking flight. You know, the one using their Palantir Pilot AI software. This is a big deal in the field, and investors are paying attention.
Yeah, the potential of AI in aviation is fascinating. Definitely a sector to keep an eye on.
Now, Phunware, their stock went up almost 28%, ending the day at $5.50 per share. The speculation is that it's connected to their links with President-elect Donald Trump and their plans to expand globally. Phunware always seems to provoke strong reactions, and we're seeing that in the market's response.
What about Tesla?
Tesla's interesting. Their stock actually dipped a little bit, down 1.76% to close at $454.13 per share. That happened even with the news about their Shanghai megafactory getting close to completion and their senior VP emphasizing how ready Tesla is to efficiently produce those autonomous vehicles.
Seems like investors might be holding back a bit, waiting for some actual results on the autonomous vehicle front before they really buy into all the hype.
Yeah, that's a good possibility. Sometimes positive news just isn't enough to outweigh bigger market trends or investor hesitation.
It's a reminder that the market can be unpredictable.
For sure. Now, before we move on, let's take another look at Palantir.
I'm all ears. Their performance this year has been pretty incredible.
Incredible, yeah. But while Dan Ives and Alex Fishman are super optimistic about Palantir, it's important to remember that overall, Wall Street is being a bit more cautious. The average price target from 20 different analyst ratings is $35.58. That actually suggests it might go down from where it is now.
So even with their amazing performance this year, there's still debate about whether it's actually overvalued.
Exactly. It's always a good idea to look at things from different angles before making any investment decisions.
It shows that even the most successful companies get scrutinized, and people have different opinions about them.
Right. Now, let's completely change gears and talk in depth about those investor alerts we mentioned earlier.
Those are really important for investors to know about.
They are. Remember, these are just alerts, and law firms are investigating potential claims. So let's go through them one by one.
Okay, let's start with Flux Power Holdings.
Flux Power Holdings, ticker symbol FLUX. The lead plaintiff deadline is December 31st, 2024. The issue is alleged financial misstatements, meaning investors are saying the company might have misrepresented its financial position.
That's a serious accusation.
It is, and anyone who invested in Flux Power and thinks they might have been negatively affected has a very limited time to join this lawsuit.
It's a good reminder to pay close attention to these deadlines.
Absolutely. Next, we have TMC, the metals company.
What's going on with TMC?
TMC, the metals company, ticker symbol TMC, has a lead plaintiff deadline of January 7th, 2025. The problem here is that they had to restate their financial statements because of accounting misclassification. Looks like they might have made mistakes in how they categorize their finances.
This really highlights how important it is to do your research carefully and understand the risks that come with any investment. Okay, what about 5.9?
5.9, yeah, their ticker symbol's FIVN, and their lead plaintiff deadline is February 3rd, 2025. The lawsuit alleges misleading statements, about their business performance and revenue guidance.
So it seems like investors are saying that 5.9 might have been a little too optimistic about their business, maybe more so than they should have been?
Yeah, that's the main idea behind the allegation, and it's a good reminder that companies really need to be upfront and honest with their investors.
Transparency is so important. Now, let's talk about Kyverna Therapeutics. What's their situation?
Kyverna Therapeutics, ticker symbol KYTX, they have a deadline of February 7th, 2025. The lawsuit against them is centered around alleged misleading information that was in their IPO documents, specifically about their clinical trial results.
So the issue is with their initial public offering and the information they presented at that time.
Exactly. This is a good reminder for investors to always carefully look at a company's IPO documents and do thorough research before investing.
Solid advice. Now, how about Warner Bros. Discovery?
They have a deadline of January 24th, 2025. The lawsuit alleges that they made some misleading statements about their business prospects, particularly when it came to negotiations for sports rights.
So those negotiations might have had a bigger impact than they initially let on.
That's what the lawsuit alleges, and it really emphasizes how important it is to understand how a company's major business deals can affect their overall financial well-being.
Great point. Now, what about ASP Isotopes?
ASP Isotopes. Their deadline's February 3rd, 2025. The lawsuit is saying they overstated how effective their technology is and how much potential their business really has.
Sounds like a case of overpromising and underdelivering based on the lawsuit.
You could say that. Investors are saying that they were misled about what ASP Isotopes technology is capable of.
Okay, what about DMC Global?
DMC Global, they've got a deadline of February 4th, 2025. The allegations against them are about misleading statements regarding their financial results and also about something called goodwill impairment.
Goodwill impairment. That sounds a bit complicated.
It can be a bit complex. So goodwill is like an intangible asset a company has. It represents things like their reputation and their relationship with customers. Impairment happens when the value of that goodwill goes down.
So the lawsuit is claiming that DMC Global might not have represented the value of their goodwill accurately.
Exactly. This serves as a reminder that investors need to pay attention to both a company's tangible assets and their intangible assets.
Good point. Now let's move on to Sun Communities. What's happening with them?
Their deadline is February 10th, 2025. The issue here is the alleged concealment of information about loans given to the CEO and also potential insider trading.
So this lawsuit raises concerns about whether things are ethical at the top levels of the company.
That's right. If those allegations are true, it could mean serious trouble for Sun Communities and their investors.
For sure. We have two more companies to discuss, Applied Therapeutics and Zeta Global Holdings.
Right. Applied Therapeutics has a deadline of February 18th, 2025. They're dealing with a class action lawsuit that came after their stock price dropped significantly. That happened because the FDA rejected their application for a new drug and also sent them a warning letter.
That's got to be a major setback for a pharmaceutical company.
It is. Those actions by the FDA really shook investor confidence, which led to the lawsuit.
And lastly, Zeta Global Holdings.
Zeta Global Holdings, their lead plaintiff deadline is January 21st, 2025. They're facing allegations that they used some data collection practices that are questionable and that they inflated their financial results artificially.
So both their data practices and their financial reporting are being looked at closely.
That's right. This really shows how vital it is for companies to handle data ethically these days. It's crucial for maintaining a good reputation and for long-term success.
Couldn't agree more. So with that, we've gone over all the investor alerts we have for today.
We have, and it's really crucial for investors to stay aware, do their research, and maybe even seek some professional advice when they need it. These alerts are good reminders that even when the market's doing well, there are still risks to keep in mind.
I completely agree. Now, earlier we were talking about Dan Ives calling Palantir the Messi of AI.
Right, a pretty bold statement.
I was curious about the comparison he made to Oracle. What do you think he sees in that comparison?
That's a good question. I think what Ives sees is a similarity in how both companies use data and analytics to tackle tough problems. Oracle's a big name in enterprise software. They're a powerhouse. And Ives seems to believe that Palantir could become a similar powerhouse, but in the world of AI.
That's a really interesting comparison. Palantir is definitely shaking things up in the AI world.
They are. It remains to be seen whether they'll truly become the next Oracle, but their journey so far has been remarkable.
For sure. Now, remember that story about Vitalik Buterin adopting a baby hippo?
Oh yes, little Moodang. Such a heartwarming story.
It really is. And it got me thinking about the bigger picture. Does this tell us anything about how the culture of the crypto world is changing?
That's a great question. I think Buterin's gesture reflects a growing sense of responsibility within the crypto community, a sense of wanting to give back. We're seeing more and more leaders in the crypto world getting involved in philanthropy, using their wealth to address important social and environmental issues.
So it's not just about the technology and making money anymore. There's a human element starting to emerge.
Exactly. It's a positive shift. It adds another dimension to the crypto world, one that goes beyond just the financial side of things.
It's a good reminder that even in the world of finance, which can be so fast-paced and unpredictable, there's room for compassion and kindness.
I couldn't agree more. And speaking of unpredictable, remember that unusual jump in GameStop stock?
Oh, yeah. The one that might have been influenced by Roaring Kitty's cryptic Christmas post.
That's the one. It's always fascinating to see how social media and online communities can affect what happens in the stock market.
Yeah, that's a trend that's becoming more and more common, especially with meme stocks.
Right. It highlights the influence online personalities can have and how important it is to understand how social media can shape how people feel about the market.
It's definitely a new element in the investing world. Before we wrap things up, I wanted to touch on those companies facing legal challenges.
Sure, those are definitely important to discuss.
What advice would you give to our listeners who might have invested in these companies?
That's a good question. I think the most important thing is to try not to panic. These are just allegations right now, and the legal process has to run its course. People should gather information from reliable sources, understand what the allegations are about, and perhaps most importantly, think about getting legal advice if they feel they've been personally affected.
That's solid advice. It reminds us that seeking professional guidance is always a good option when dealing with complex legal matters.
Definitely. We've covered a lot of ground today, from big market movers to those investor alerts, but it's important to remember that the world of finance is always evolving.
It certainly is. And it's our job to help our listeners stay informed and navigate all those changes.
That's why we do what we do.
Now, before we say goodbye, I wanted to highlight one last takeaway from today's roundup.
I'm all ears.
Well, we discussed several situations where companies are facing legal issues because of things like transparency, their data practices, and their financial reporting.
You're right. We saw lawsuits about alleged misleading statements, mistakes in accounting, and even possible ethical breaches.
And it made me think about how much more important corporate social responsibility is becoming.
Absolutely. It's not enough for companies to just focus on making money anymore. Investors and the public are demanding more accountability and ethical behavior.
Exactly. Companies have to prioritize being transparent, fair, and sustainable. It's not just about doing the right thing, it's also good for business.
I couldn't agree more. It's a trend we're seeing across industries, and it's a positive one. Companies that embrace these values are more likely to build strong reputations and more sustainable businesses over the long term.
And that's a great message to keep in mind as we head into the new year.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, it really shows you just how complex the world of finance can be. But for now, let's wrap up today's daily financial news roundup.
Definitely a lot going on, even with the holidays.
It has been busy. Thanks for joining us for this look at some of the biggest financial news stories.
And remember, we try to give you a good summary, but always do your own research before making any investment decisions.
Stay informed, stay curious, and stay ahead of the game.
Happy investing, everyone, and we'll see you in the new year.